Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to PSGL Season 26. This is round number 3, and we go to the home of British motorsport in Silverstone for the British Grand Prix, a site of a former World War II airbase, believe it or not. My name is Jess, and joining me as per usual, we've got Dan.
Good evening, everyone. I cannot wait for this one, coming off the back of a crazy race last time out in Hungary.
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic, but just like the first race here in Austria, it rained pretty much nearly the entire race apart from just towards the end, and it played havoc on some people's strategies, which made it a little bit more interesting. But something that we saw time and time again, the same we saw in race 1 as well, Rafa won the race again, and he's leading the standings by quite some margin. He is a win ahead of his teammate Toxic Tomato in P2, and Rafa's going to hope it rains today, because otherwise it's going to be more difficult for him to climb up the order. But you know, Rafa is just on a perfect start at the moment. The only thing he needs to do is get pole position, and then he's all set, really.
Well, he might have to prove that he's not just the rain merchant here today. Both of his wins so far this season have been in wet weather. Of course, the preseason race was dry, and he won that as well. So he's really been on a streak in F2. 2 wins in 2 races. He's doing flawlessly right now, and his teammate is struggling to keep up after a poor qualifying performance last time. So hopefully he can rectify that today.
Yeah, Toxic Tomato second in the championship. He's finished 6th last week, so he didn't get a podium last week. But there was one good surprise coming out of that race. We'll talk about that in a minute. But we've got some news about our drivers. We got a little bit of an update to our driver list. Unfortunately, Odems and Josh decided that they would no longer want to be in the league. Josh hasn't raced in F2 this season apart from the pre-season race, whereas Odems has decided that there was other commitments that he was going on alongside, and unfortunately he had to hang up the towel, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame, and 2 veterans in F1 and F2 resigning from PSGL. But do not worry, we've got 2 drivers filling in their seats. First of all, we've got the person who's been on reserve for 2 weeks in the actual AlphaTauri seat. It's PR1 Will, who has finished 6th in Austria and 5th in Hungary. He's got a point to prove there. And then second, our new driver, who was a reserve, but he got the call to get a full-time seat. Yeah, it's his first race this season. Is IGK Dario 28. And he's quite a quick driver around this game and looking good in time trial as well. So these 2 drivers are going to be with a lot of pressure, being the new kids on the block.
Well, Will certainly does have his experience in PSGL, of course. He won F2 back in season 23, and it is a great story from him, coming from being placed in F3 before the season even started to now being 5th in the standings. It is really great to see from him. And then Dario, completely new on the scene. He's going to be one to watch out for today.
Yeah, definitely as well. And Faz was an outsider before coming into this F2 season. And he did really, really well last time about. He got his first pole position, the only other driver apart from the 2 Williams boys to score a pole position. Unfortunately, he didn't convert himself into a win, which was a bit of a shame. But I think, is going to be under a lot more watchful eye out of some of the drivers in other tiers as well, to see what he can do. He's definitely shown why he's going into F2 right now as well, so that should be interesting. And we got a reserve driver who is filling in, I believe, for Luke, and it is C_Peters59, who, believe it or not, was actually one of the fastest guys on time trial. Name changer was 72nd in the world around this circuit, and C. Peters was 76th in the world and 2nd fastest in this tier around Silverstone in time trial. But time trial means nothing compared to the real thing, doesn't it?
Absolutely, it's completely different track conditions in time trial. It's a bit of like the perfect run in time trial. You know, you've got unlimited ERS and the track conditions are pristine. So it is much different to convert a good time trial time into a good qualifying lap. But he's going to come in with a lot of confidence, knowing that he is one of the quickest on time trial around this track as he's pulling out the pits as a lot of drivers beginning their out laps.
Yep, the first Grand Prix was back in 1950, the first Formula One Grand Prix ever held, actually, as well. And we did see the 70th anniversary Grand Prix actually celebrate that, and there was some good memories there. And it was actually won by an Alfa Romeo, the driver, which I can't pronounce the name. I know he's Italian, that's all I know. But Dario is looking to repeat a bit of history to see if he can improve on Alfa Romeo's chances. He didn't do quite as well in real life, but let's see if he can do well on this track right now. As pretty much everyone's out on circuit now. There's some corners to watch out for. Brooklands heading in, well, Wellington Straight heading into Brooklands is, well, the first DRS straight of the circuit as well. We'll see a lot of overtaking. Maggots, Beckett's into Stowe as well. A lot of people get caught out there. And also into the hangar straight into Stowe as well, the second DRS straight. And going into Clubman Vale as well. So a lot of overtaking opportunities today. And we are expecting pole times to roughly be around the 1:23.5 to 1:23.8 is what we set, they said in the chat. So we'll see if people live up to their name. As everyone's going out on the soft, so I obviously the tyre compounds are not too bad. So if it was dry, they'll probably be on the softs anyway. But interestingly, that not many people go on the mediums early on.
Well, really, you should be starting on the softs around this track, and everyone does want to get high up on the grid. So putting on that Red Bull tyre will be right for them. It's going to be a soft medium strategy. You can pretty much make that work with the tyre degradation around here being the C1, C2 and C3 tyres. They've got a lot of life in them. So we are probably going to see a soft to medium strategy here today.
Yeah, I think so as well. And from what I've heard from the drivers, I'm just looking at the chat right now, and we hope it's going to be another dry race, but I think we're proven wrong. It's most likely it's gonna rain. That's why a lot of people are on those soft tyres. That is annoying, but there we go. We're stroking with the F2 rain curse here at PSGL. I think we're the only team that's gotten rain in pretty much every single race since round one, unless they're lying, of course.
Well, the first drive to come across the line, he was on the podium last week taking a second position. It's Pablo Jongler with the time to beat of a 1:24.1. Lickle Blocks also did struggle a lot last week, getting damage early on, and they are finishing up their laps. No one's coming close to Pablo at the moment, so it's a nice banker from the Spaniards.
Yep, it is 1:24.1. That is a good benchmark, and considering the people on the 1:25s on the last game, that is insanely quick as well. Don't forget, some of these guys have never done time trial, I've got to say. And softs can last quite a bit on this track, actually. The tyre degradation is not too bad around here, so if it was to dry at some point during the race, then they could use soft to their advantage if it's halfway, or even if it's towards the start as well, that if they want to try and push these tyres a little bit. Again, we'll have to wait and see. They haven't told us when the rain is going to come. They just said it was going to be wet at some point, so we'll have to wait and see, of course. Golden's going out on his outlap as well. And the championship leader, Rafa, is setting the times alight right now. He's on pole position with a 1:23.8. We're not that far off the predicted pole time of a 1:23.5. And I've spoken to Rafa earlier on. He predicts that his teammate is probably going to get pole. Quite a lot of people are predicting Toxic to get pole. And Rafa and Toxic have both predicted they want to be on the front row and lock out that Williams just like they did in the first race. Obviously, Faz stopped them last week, but we'll have to wait and see if they do it again this week. But Rafa and Toxic, they're showing the metals today, as Toxic goes second just about as well.
Well, that gap is pretty much microscopic. 700 of a second separates Rafa and Toxic Tomato. Toxic is a bit frustrated with his season start. He's a whole win behind his teammate, and he knows he can do better than this. Of course, he was leading in the first race, and then he lost it on a penalty. So he's going to be really frustrated with that. He's got vengeance to be sought here today, and he's getting close to his teammate already, but he's a win behind. So he really does need to pick up the pace if he wants to win this championship.
Yeah, Toxic wasn't feeling that good at the start of the race, mentally wise, but I think there was a lot of people that encouraged him that if he wants to win this championship, he needs to pick up the pace a little bit in the race, and he can get those penalties, and he sure will get there. But he's quick, and I am predicting Toxic is going to get a win at some point. It's just he just wants. I think the mentality has just got to be there to make sure he does that as well. IGK Pat in P3 not doing too bad at the moment, with a 124.0. Hasn't had the best start of to the season as we would have thought, as he actually, I think he has got a few DNFs. Well, he had one DNF last week, and he got a 19th place in Austria, so hasn't scored any points. And this is one of those drivers where you think they would be in F1, but he hasn't, and he's looking to better himself as the season goes on. But it is a longer season compared to the last season, so he has more time to pick up his pace a little bit, and it'll be interesting to see how he does.
Absolutely, Pat is a driver that I know very well, and he's been very unlucky with the season start. He did get a puncture last time out in, in race 1 in Austria, in that whole tyre debacle, and then last time out in Hungary, he was involved in a crash with, I believe, either Gonanen or Name Changer down at turn 4, which ended up seeing him in the wall. So he's going to be frustrated with this start, but being P3 on the grid so far, 2/10 off of the championship leader, he's got to be happy with that.
Yeah, he is. I'm sure that momentum is definitely going to help him, because you need some motivation in life to score higher as well. And some people may just give up after the first few races, but you know, you may see your championship rivals start to crumble under the pressure, and then they miss it, and then that's it. So to be honest, that is something that they need to watch out for. And Pat is showing why he deserves to be in F2. His teammate Kurat is about to cross the line to start his out. Now we've also got Midnight, Greeny LFC, and Little Blocks and CC Brain going out as well. Let's actually take you on board on a hot lap around this beautiful circuit. The first 2 corners of Silverstone can be taken flat out. Try to take the fair amount of inside curb, or you'll else risk running a little bit too wide for turn 2. Make sure your car's all the way to the left, and then turn 3. Hit that right curve, as Kurat's a little bit of a swerve from him as well. That hasn't helped him going on to the Wellington straight here. You're now going to go towards turn 6 and 7 coming up soon as well. But first, we've got the Wellington straight. Now we're going to turn 6, heading into Brooklands, and then going into Luffield. Your maximum speed here should be around about 100 miles an hour going to the start of that, which he does. He's now going on to 6th, 7th gear here. He's got plenty of ERS to manage as well, so he's managing that perfectly well. And now the famous Maggots, Beckett and Chapel complex coming up here. And we just got past Cops as well. So a lot of people tend to struggle trying to get this full throttle, but you only just need to brake just a little bit and only short shift down, I think, 1 gear, and that will really, really help you. He's only 39 thousandths off his previous best, but he's going to get a tow from someone in front, but obviously you're not allowed to give slipstream to your teammate, but that's going to help him going into Club and Bell. That's Dario in front as well, who's about to start a lap, but luckily he's a little bit too further away from him to start a lap. So Kurat is about to cross the line. He improves on that final sector, and I won't be surprised if a lot of people will find some time in that final sector, because that's what Kurat just did, and he's in P8.
Well, 7th from 10th, 4 cars separated by about 700 of a second roughly, so it is really close between these guys. Kurat slotting himself in between the Mercedes right now, one of the most well-known partnerships, and someone's just jumped up position, I believe. That was it Pablo? I think Pablo's just moved up a couple positions. Oh, it was Greeny, sorry. Greeny's gone into 4th.
Yeah, Greeny doing very well. Greeny missed a race last week because obviously he couldn't make it, which was a bit of a shame. But his expectations, obviously, since he missed a race, and he was where he was meant to be, of course. And he enjoys Silverstone because of the flow, and that's why I like Silverstone, is due to the flow of it. I'm guessing he uses a wheel, but I can't remember. And but he finds turn 3 and 4 a pain due to the tight nature of those corners. But I think Greeny is expecting top 10 in qualifying and top 5 in the race. Well, he's exceeding expectations in qualifying, and if he keeps it up, maybe he'll have a chance of getting at the top 5 in the race. Maybe he would want to improve on expectations a little bit, just like these other drivers. Imagine how these gaps are going to be when F1 comes about later on, because 7 tenths separates the top 15. That is absolutely crazy. And don't forget, we still got Gonanen, Skeven and Will still yet to set their lap times. We know how fast these guys are. Gonanen, another driver who was quick in time trial. Let me just have a look at where he was in the world. He was just behind Faz, actually. Faz was 83rd with a 1:23.869. Gonanen was 1:23.880. So, again, another driver that likes his track. I think it's a driver favourite for most of these guys.
Well, a lot of people really do like Silverstone because it's been in the game for so much time, and it's pretty much beloved by everyone. Name change going third there, but it's mostly flat out, so everyone really loves the feel of it. You've got, of course, the infamous corners of Cops, Maggots, Beckett's, and then Stowe as well. It's just such an iconic track, and everyone does really love it. I've never actually met someone who says, "Oh, I hate Silverstone."
No, I think some people do, but maybe because they haven't scored well. We'll have to wait and see, of course. But we'll see how Gonanen manages this Maggots and Beckett's complex, and he's managing it nicely. Well, he almost managed it nicely, but he took Chapel just a little bit too, but he was controlling the car nice and well. Let's hope he gains time in that final sector, as the DRSE was very quick to react to that as well. Let's see if he can go faster than perhaps potentially his teammate. I'm not surprised Name Changer up there, because obviously Name Changer was top of the time trials out of all the F2 guys, so we'll see how he copes in the race, of course. Gonanen goes P7, a 1:24.047. Everyone's just set a lap time, with Benny in 19th place, and Will has gone up into 11th place. And what was that time from him? A 1:24.349, but times may not be as quicker as we thought, because maybe it's due to the fact that they may have a wet setup on, or a mixed bag of a dry wet setup. So what would you do in that situation if you know it's going to rain in the race? What setup would you use?
I'd probably swap over onto a wet setup, but if it is a wet dry setup, I'd maybe try and incorporate a bit of dry and a bit of wet into it, maybe like have a middle range ride height, but then it wouldn't be good in any condition. It's such a confusing concept setups. I'm no good with them at all. So these guys will be in a bit of a predicament, whether to get high up on the grid and have track position, or fit on a wet setup and then run from there. It's quite tricky to actually understand.
Yeah, it is really, to be honest. As everyone, I think, is going into the pits now. The only one that's still on a lap is Gonanen, who is probably going to go into the pits anyway, as he's running out of fuel. So we're going to have a little bit of a moment as drivers set their final tyres before they get into the pits. But one advantage, they don't have to rely on tyre choice for the start of the race if it's inters or wet. So they don't have to worry if it's soft, medium or hard. They can consider, well, they could just go straight to the race, which is good as well. But meanwhile, the tyres are going to be super cold, like we've seen last week in Hungary, and also in Austria as well, where the race started wet, but it was dry tyres in Austria as well. So they haven't told if it's inters or full wet, so that's going to be interesting as well. But I'm going to leave that as a surprise to me and Dan, and to the viewers as well. We're seeing Pablo and Skivan going out on the track as well. They're going to get some clean air as well, but I'm not probably expecting them to get pole today, because you really want to leave it to the very last possible moment to get out, because that is where the track is going to be at its finest, it's going to be its most grippiest, and you're going to have so much clean air, well, so much slipstream as well. Well, you don't know a large slipstream, but a lot of things to rely on, really. So, but at least Pablo's got some clean air, and that's probably why he wants to go out, same as Ski then. Almost everyone's going out as well, so time to get their last lap in and see if everyone can improve their lap times. Everyone except Benny is on either a 1:23 or a 1:24, so just that small mistake could cost you pole today, and this is how these drivers are going to fare. Let's see how they do today.
Well, the top 18 separated by a second, the top 17 separated by 7/10 of a second. Those are some crazy gaps, as Pablo will be the first one to start his final run, coming through Stowe corner now. Very tricky corner. You used to be able to extend it completely and just go almost flat out. Well, not flat out, obviously, and then you wouldn't get a warning, but they fixed that in this game, as now Pablo begins his lap coming through club corner to take us away for the beginning of his final run.
Yeah, the number 95. I believe that's the number 95 car that he's chosen, or is number 90 something. It's hard to distinguish if it's a 5 or something else, really. Oh, it's Pablo. It wasn't a perfect entry into turn 2 there and 3, but at least he can get some more momentum going into the Wellington straight, where he's probably going to gain more time. Greeny LFC is also on the lap as well. We've got Rafa, Toxic Tomato. They're going to start their final laps. I believe they're not going to be the last to cross the line, as we've got Name Changer. Name Changer is warming up his tyres. He is taking it way too seriously, which is brilliant to see, obviously. With these drivers in F1 and F2, they don't just turn up on a Monday and just race. They practice all week. I see the chats saying, oh, do you want to practice? Do you want to practice today? It's literally like this every day for majority of these guys in F1 and F2. And if you want to be the best, you've got to practice your craft, really. And that's what's helping Name Change out today. And obviously Dario as well, impressing on debut in 4th place. He's going through Magic and Beckett's now. Let's watch Pablo, actually, as he's going towards Club and Interval to actually finish his lap. He's going to be the first person to set a lap time, well, the first person to cross the line. We've got one of the Ferraris as well, Greeny. But let's see if Pablo goes into P2. That's a really good lap time there from Pablo. Greeny, let's see what he could do. Wow, Greeny beats Pablo by just 4 milliseconds. That is fantastic. Skivan can't improve. He goes in at 2P14. And what about the rest of the drivers, Dan?
Well, Toxic Tomato crucially was the last one out on track right now, but we've got some more drivers coming to the end of their laps. Here comes Benny, who didn't set a good banker lap. He goes into last position, unfortunately. Peters is next, the new reserve driver. He goes into 16th position. I think Faz is up next. No, that is a Racing Point car. My mistake there. It was Pat. As more drivers finish up their laps, Midnight goes into 9th position. He gets ahead of his teammate, and CC Brains just finishing that one. Rafa.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Rafa's done a 23.6. That is going to be tough to beat.
That is going to be tough to beat as well. Last week's pole sitter is about to cross the line now. Let's see if he can beat that. No, he doesn't improve. He stays in the 124s. There's quite a few more people crossing the line. We've got Toxic Tomato. Oh, no! Toxic Tomato has invalidated his lap. We haven't seen many people invalidate their laps, but we've seen Toxic, and that's denied a Williams 1-2 today. We've got Rafa on pole position. We said he needed pole today to keep that perfect runs, and he's believed it's probably going to be a wrecked race, of course. But it's not Toxic Tomato that's P2. I think pretty much almost everyone predicted Toxic Tomato was going to go on pole position. But no, it's Rafa. And we've got Greeny LFC, the man who is one of the league admins here at PSGL, and obviously didn't race last week. He is in P2, but just look at the gap between 1st and 13th.
Well, wow. 1st and 13th separated by just over 7/10 of a second. I was watching Toxic Tomato on the end of his lap, and unfortunately, it was right at the end of his run at Stowe Corner. He ran just an inch wide and he lost it. And it wouldn't have been enough for pole, but it would have been enough to slot himself into P2, of course. So he's going to be kicking himself about that one. Frustrating start to the season, but at least he's not starting right at the back like he was last time.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say as well, as all the results were on your screen there. So the question that remains to be seen is it going to be 4 wets, or is it going to be inters? We're going to see. Or is it going to be the same as Austria, a wet track but dry tyres, as all the drivers are... Oh, wow. That's full wets. That's full wets, definitely. I don't know, actually. It's impossible to tell, because I've seen this in another league where it was a wet race. It was raining like this. I thought, right, it was going to be 4 wets. But no, it's inters. But it does depend. They may just be on the cusp of being 4 wets or cusp of being inters. We don't know. It's going to be hard to tell. But, you know, but obviously they've got the deltas in front of them, so they can decide on what tyres they go on. If it's 4 wets, they don't have enough 4 wets to use in the race. I think they only have, 2 to use, or 2 or 3, whereas inters, they have more. So that means less mistakes is required for these drivers today, because otherwise they're going to be on used tyres from potentially qualifying or even the start of the race. But for some of them, it won't be too bad if they crash lap 1, but ideally they want to be on new tyres as well, and you're able to see now in the game, in the MFD, if there are new or old tyres that you're picking as well, which is a good, nice feature they got on the new patch, of course. As well, I think we're just waiting for the last drivers to ready up. And typical British weather. I think most of these British Grand Prix here in PSGL has been wet affected in some way. So again, it's not too surprising, and it is not Inters. It's full wet. So I was proven wrong here. I thought, I think you were proven right. It was full wet there, but yeah, that is going to be interesting. It's not monsoon conditions, so thank goodness for that.
Well, what I've noticed is that every week the rain has been getting slightly heavier. We had just on the cusp of being dry in Austria, then it was completely intermediate in Hungary, and now in Britain it is full wet. So next week in Spain, we might be racing in boats. That's my prediction for that one.
Yeah, or maybe I'm trying to think of what have your umbrellas handy with your COVID masks as well, because you're probably going to need them for pretty much most of the races this season. But I usually go through the tyre strategy, but really we don't know what's going to happen because it's all wet. They're all on the same tyres, but the wets can go pretty much. I think the lifespan of the full wets, if it was to stay like this for the entire race, 25 laps. So technically, if they know the conditions are not going to get better or if it's going to get worse, they can just pit that one, then go on or lap 2 or lap 3 or whatever, pit early on in the race, and then go on to a fresh set of wets and go to the end. Or they can split their tyre strategy, maybe do half and half. Potentially that's what I would do. So it's really down to pretty much the strategy choice of the driver in the case, because it's the same tyre life as the hard tyres, and we don't want to use the hard tyres around Silverstone, so you know, and obviously the Inters is the same tyre life as the mediums if we ever do get to use it. But I don't think we've seen the full wets used in F2 this season. We've seen the Inters, we've seen the dries, so this is the first time we're going to see the blue tyres for this season. And who is your prediction on who's going to win this race? Can anyone stop Rafa being the wet merchant?
Well, you know what? Both of his race wins have been in wet conditions, so I think it is going to be another one for Rafa. I'm going to say Toxic Tomato will end up on the podium, and I think Name Changes, despite being in 7th, he would have wanted it to be a lot higher up. I do think he can climb up the order in the adverse conditions and get into P3.
We'll have to wait and see. I think Rafa's got this potentially nailed as well, but Pablo was looking quite impressive last week as well. Maybe he could steal the podium or even a race victory once again. We'll have to find out, of course. It's anyone's game, and for the likes of Dario and CP, it's their first time in the wets here in PSGL as well. So this is their first experience of these conditions. As the 5 red lights are coming up on your screen right now, we've got Rafa on the right, Greeny on the left. Who is going to get the best start today? We got a lot of drive-through penalties for jump starts, so a lot of people were very keen to get away. I didn't quite see who it was, but Greeny's actually got a very good start into turn 1. So has Rafa as well. It's really tricky in the wet, and it's really hard to see in these conditions. I would want to be Rafa right now. He's got lots of clean air in front of him, but the other guys are going to find it a little bit more tricky. Now let's see as they all go through turn 3. I think they all go through unscathed, which is great to see. We've got, I think, 2 of the racing points going. I think they were going side by side as well. We've got Dario trying to make moves as well. It is chucking it down right now. I mean, it didn't look as bad when we were in the pits, but my oh my, this is British weather for you, as we've got the Red Bull of Name Changer making some moves. We've got Golonen as well. Here comes Name Changer on his teammate. I think he's got the job done. Yes, he has. Name Changer is up into P5. A strong start for him. A strong start from Kurax as well. Up into P7 with Dario dropping down to 8. We got a yellow flag, and that's CC.
Crash.
That is CC Brain, Skivan. I think, yeah, it was CC Brain and Skivan. Where was that? That was, I think, going just past Luffield, and Skivan is out of the session. So our first retirement already, and we haven't even finished the first lap, but Rafa still leads from Greeny.
Just to add more troubles to CC Brain, he was one of the 3 drivers to get a drive-through penalty. So was Skivan, and Benny was the last one. Will getting into a bit of trouble down there. He's lost 2 positions on the hanger straight. I wonder what happened to him there, but we're coming to the end of the first lap. right now. Pablo Jogler and Toxic Tomato fighting in this contact, and I think that might be a half spin for Toxic Tomato. He holds it there, but Name Change is going to slip by on the outside. And oh, it's all glitching out a little bit in the timing screens.
Well, it is to be expected. I think every single league I've commentated, it's always done that. As well, we've seen a corner cut for one of the Matans. I think that was Pablo, I think it was, as well. We've got Kurat trying, I think, I can't see Kurat was actually trying to make a move on Gonan. And quite a few cars were ghosted. I hope they fix this, please. I swear to God, because it's not good as a spectator seeing a lot of cars ghosted like this. But what we do know is CC Brain, he's in the pits right now, going on to those another set of wet tyres, but he knows he can make it to the end now. It lasts 25 laps, but obviously the pace just won't cut it towards the end. But he knows if he doesn't have to pit. He's made his one and only stop, his mandatory stop, of course. But you know, if I was him, I would pit to try and get some clear around. No, it's not CC Brain that's leading. It is Rafa. It's just the timing's having a little bit of a moment there. Hopefully it sorts itself out pretty soon. Really still doing well in P2, but just a little bit behind Rafa. We've got Toxic Tomato trying to make up for lost ground between Name Changer and Pablo up ahead.
Well, Toxic Tomato is not going to be happy with the contact made with Pablo Jogler last time at Vale, and a little bit of a mistake coming up Chapel for Name Changer. Toxic Tomato is going to get a run coming up towards Stowe. Will he try and send it? He is going to go up the inside into Stowe corner. What a move that is. Has he got it done? Yes, he has. Name Changer defenseless there. I don't think he's expecting that one from Toxic Tomato there.
No, he definitely wasn't. He was looking... I think he was caught napping for a minute there as well. So Toxic Tomato, brilliant job from him. And unfortunately, the camera didn't show it just at the moment. We should have gone on board, really, as there seemed to be having a lot of battles in the midfield. Will has gone to the pits as well. So I think he must have had front wing damage somewhere there. I want to see if I can actually go on board and see if it was front wing damage. I do believe they have a front wing ready for them. I think they do. Yeah, they do. They've got damage there, so that's going to cost them.
In other news, Toxic Tomato is right up to the back of Pablo Jogler. Now it's a spin in turn 4, I believe that is, or yellow flags for no reason. I don't quite know what that was for, but Toxic Tomato already trying to put the pressure back onto Pablo Jogler after they made contact at the end of lap number 1. He's really fired up in this one, I'll tell you that now.
Yeah, indeed, it's Toxic Tomato. He's getting a better run on Pablo going in to just past Cox, going into Magus. But I don't think he's going to go for a move that much yet, because otherwise he's going to struggle. Of course, he's probably going to slide if he's not too careful. But Pablo doing a nice job on holding on as well. But you can see a train of cars forming. Toxic Tomato's gone in the grass. That's lost one position for Toxic Tomato. Name Change has now got the position back up into P4. Toxic Tomato just making mistake after mistake after mistake. Last week we saw him gaining positions from where he started low down. This week he seems to be losing position. We're seeing the opposite effect to what we saw last week. What a shame from Toxic.
It's really crucial. That was a really crucial error, especially since he was catching Pablo so much there, and now he's just completely lost all ground. Now he's probably going to be feeling the pressure from Curax behind. Both racing points actually doing really well, up in 6th and 7th. Pat's going to want to be in the points today, and the IGK drivers running 7th and 8th. So overall, it's been a pretty decent start for the conditions that they're in.
We've got yellow flag set to 1. I see a red ball.
Oh, it's gone on.
It's gone on that spun. Yeah, he's got damage. I think that was damage completely by himself there, which is a shame. A driver who wanted to do well. His predictions for the race, I believe he wanted just to be in the points, I think, as well, and unfortunately he's not going to get that. He, at the moment, he's down in 15th. Little Blocks is trying to get his first point of the season, but Handler just passes them, going in just past Luffield into Woodcote. We've got Big C trying to go for a move there as well. Big C came out of nowhere as well. Big C is up into 11th place. He's now chasing Handler up for P10 as well. Midnight's still there in 9th place as well. Let's look at the positions gained for these drivers. We've got Name Changer that's gained 3, Kurat's gained 4, Pat has gained 2, Midnight has gained 2, Hadler's gained 5, Big C's gained 1. One of our reserve drivers, Peters, is gained 6. Faz, who did really well last week, is not liking these full wet conditions as he's under pressure by a lot of these drivers, but we thought that one of the reserve drivers was going to challenge for the move, but it was, I thought I saw a bit of lightning there go up in the sky, but it might be just me there. It's gone, and has just got a 3-second time penalty added to his list. That is not good at all, but the top 2 are just running away with it. 4 seconds separating between Rafa and Greeny, and 3.6 separating between Greeny and Pablo. So I think it's just a fight for third is what the drivers have got to worry about here. The fight to be the best of the rest. So far it's looking like it's going to be Pablo that's going to be best of the rest, but Toxic Tomato wants to close up to his teammate. He doesn't want Rafa to extend his gap too much, because otherwise guys behind him are going to probably actually close in on him in the championship.
Well, Pablo Jogler trying to defend for P3 right now. Gone on and now retires in the pit lane. He did get a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane there. So that's our second retirement of the day. Shouldn't bring out the safety car since it was in the pit lane. But Pablo, he's got 2 cars right behind him. They're separated by about a second. Toxic Tomato has found a way back up towards these guys. So it is a real show of Toxic Tomato's pace that he's being able to keep up these guys despite the crucial bits of contacts that he's made, and then the mistake just coming out of this corner here, Chapel. I think Name Changer, he might see a move coming on though on Pablo Jogler for P3.
I think it is. It's a nice balance. It's great to see the likes of Name Changer, who's used to fighting near the backpack of the grid in F2 this season, who is fighting for potential podium spot. It just the wet conditions just shake up the order on this grid, especially for where Inter is quite similar to near dry conditions, but you can see the conditions are just getting worse and worse and worse, just like we saw in Austria last week. You can barely see what's going on right now, but Name Changer seems to be loving it. He doesn't care whatever conditions he throws at him. I think he prefers the wet condition. He hopes that a top 5 will be on the card for him, but if he stays where he is, he's going to exceed his expectations here tonight.
Well, further down the order, Big C feeling feeling the Renault's presence of BLT Fast. This is the closest gap on track right now, and a little bit of a slow exit through. I believe that's Village for Big C. Faz could maybe sense a move coming into Brooklands. He's going to swoop to the left-hand side, the inside line. Big C runs wide there, maybe trying to get a better exit, and he can't defend from the Brazilian driver. He moves up into 12th position, 4 positions gained for the Renault car.
Yeah, well done to Faz, who is trying to remember his good result from last week and really start to carry that momentum, really, because he's not even in the points yet at this stage. But it's not about where you start for Faz, it's where you finish, and it's great to see the mentality going into these races. So we're on lap 6 now, so in around about 5 or 6 laps time, we'll start to see the first few drivers go into the pits for their planned stop. Meanwhile, we've got one of the other McLaren drivers who's trying to see if he can get past Hadler for the final points position. Every point can make a difference. Don't forget, reserve drivers, they don't score points for their constructors. They only score points for the drivers, because when they go into a full-time seat, only their drivers' points get carried over. So Will was reserved for the last 2 weeks. He's now a full-time driver. His AlphaTauri points won't count, but his driver points will. That's the more reason to get that motivation to do well, to see if Peters can get that full-time seat. But he's looking pretty good at the moment, staying right behind Hadler, tucked in just a little bit, and I think he's just waiting for him to make a mistake, as do quite a lot of these drivers. Meanwhile, up at the front, Toxic Tomato is around about 4 seconds behind Name Changer. Now, this could be the talking points of this race, because they're still fighting for position for P4. It's not what Toxic wants, but I think Name Changer must be loving the pressure of having one of the best drivers on this grid fighting with him.
Absolutely, of course he was in F1 last season, so it is going to be a bit of an honour racing with alongside Toxic Tomato right now. As I actually just want to talk about Peters here. He's challenging for P10. And this is his debut race. I've got to say, he's really impressing me so far. And he's right up to the back of the house car now. I think Stowe could be an opportunity for the McLaren reserve, or just a reserve, driving the McLaren today, filling in for Luke to get by as he knocks it up into overtake mode. He's in the slipstream of Hadler, no DRS due to the wet conditions. He's not going to go through here, making an overtake. He backs off on that one, turns down at the ERS. He's just going to bide his time.
Yeah, he is. I think he's doing that at the moment, but maybe he could go for a lunge on the left-hand side. Nope, he thinks better with it once again. And maybe he can try for turn one. I think if he had DRS there, he would have been absolutely fine so far. But
all name changes off.
All name changes off.
Ooh.
That was close. That was close almost. That was a close contact between him and Toxic Tomato, that's for sure. Has he got damage there? Doesn't look like it.
He hasn't, no. They didn't make contact, luckily. As all Toxic Tomato's got a slide on, coming onto the Wellington straight. They are really finding these conditions tricky. But that was a heart-in-mouth moment for Name Changer there as he lost the car. He went back on track, but he somehow caught the car and saved it. Will saved the fastest lap. It's nice to see from him, despite him being down in 15th position. They do need a safety car. The guy's running from about 14th all the way to 17th right now.
Well, I have seen in quite a few leagues actually on this game. I actually experienced it with a pre-season race around Austria. I'm not going to name what it was, but I'll talk about it in a minute as Toxic Tomato go try and go for a move. Heading into Stowe in a minute, just after he goes past Chapel. Then let's see if he can get that revenge of Name Changer. At the moment, he's got a warning light on his fuel, so he's got to pay attention to his fuel. He hasn't got much ERS either that hasn't helped him there, so he stays behind Name Changer. But I've took part in a race where a safety car was deployed due to the fact that it was raining too much. But here comes Toxic Tomato. Almost tried to have a look there, but unfortunately can't quite do it. Toxic's going for so many risks. Oh, they touched just a little bit. Hopefully Name Changer does not have damage. Another close contact between both of them today. We're seeing rivalry ensue for both of these drivers here today to go towards turn 2 and 3. Here comes Toxic once again with the lunge on Name Changer. Let's see what both of them can do. Toxic is struggling. Name Changer wants that P4 so badly, but Toxic Tomato's going to have the better run. Going just before the Wellington straight. There he goes. Toxic Tomato up into P4. That is what he wants. But Name Changer is going to have. I think Toxic Tomato is still under pressure from Name Changer, but there's one driver still not out of the woods yet. We've got the 2 racing points still. You can still see them in this battle. Now QX is now 9/10 behind these guys. The more these two start to battle, Dan, QX could be in the fight for P4 as well.
Well, that is certainly a possibility, but I applaud the bravery and commitment that Toxic Tomato had there. He saw that Name Changer was struggling with the conditions and he was losing time to Pablo. So really it was a case of if I stay behind this guy, I'm not going to get any further up the grid, or if I take the risk, I can get closer and maybe get on the podium. So it was a tough choice for Toxic Tomato to make, but he made it beautifully. And now he is going to be in pursuit of the McLaren car of Pablo Jopla, who's looking to get his second podium in a row.
Yeah, he had less penalties last week, which really helped him go up the order. He actually finished P2 as well, after Rafa taking the win as well. So if Rafa had penalties last week, Pablo would have taken the win. That's how tight-knit it was between those two. But Pablo, I think is using those podiums to potential. He was one of the guys who was hoping to be in F1 this season, but again he wasn't too bothered being in F2 this season. I think he must be loving the pressure that he's put along himself. He still has a chance of actually the title at the moment. He's 4th in the championship standings after his impressive result last week. He only got 15th place in Austria, so you can only afford 1 or 2 bad races really, otherwise your championship is pretty much screwed. Pablo was saying that I do believe he wanted top 5 as well. No, he didn't respond to my questions, but I'm sure he wants a top 5 or even a podium after the performance he's showing thus far. So great job from him so far. He's 4.2 seconds behind Greeny, so a lot to catch up to, but you never know. Greeny's one of those guys who likes to push those tyres to the bitter end. So if it's one of those guys that can make those tyres work, it is Pablo.
You see Bray now retiring in the pit lane after he's almost getting lapped by the race leader. That really gave him no more reason to race, unfortunately. It's sad to see drivers retiring because of earlier incidences, especially when it wasn't really your fault. They were running 3 wide on that lap 1 out of Woodcut, and then that caused them CC Brain and Skevens a crash. So it's a shame for CC Brain to retire from this one. QRX now getting a penalty. That could be crucial in that fight. Everyone seems to really have a solid gap of about a second here. There's more yellow flags. I think that is for CC Brain's car, which for some reason is coming out on track. I don't know why they haven't fixed that yet.
I don't know why either, but at least CC Brain's done the right thing, of course. The drivers were told in the stewards briefing to not retire on the track. This is a thing that's been popping up time and time again, and we still see some drivers do it, so that's why the stewards re-emphasised that today in Britain, of course. But yeah, he's in 17th place, 0 points to his name, not good for Ferrari, of course, and no disconnection so far, touch wood. I've got to say, all of them doing very well to actually keep their connections intact as well. We've got Pete and Handler trying to go for a move just past Luffield into Woodcut. Let's see what Peters could do. He's now in the point into P10 for his first excuse me, first race in at PSGL. He's already pulling away quite a bit from Handler at the moment. He made a brilliant move. Again, he was the one who definitely took the risk here. And in F2 and in F1, you definitely would want to take risk if you want to climb yourself up the order. And the McLaren driver is definitely showing that.
Well, it's not over for him, though. He's not completely out of the water from this point onward because Hadler is still close behind him, And I don't think it's over for Cedric, but he will be happy with P10 in this one, especially since he started way down in 18th position. So he'd be pleased with that move.
Yeah, he definitely will as well. Let us know how you felt, how you think these drivers are doing. Who do you want to win? Who do you think is going to win in the chat? I'll be delighted to get a discussion going. Meanwhile, Dario is behind his IGK teammate here, Pat, going for P7. Obviously, they're in the same esports team, but they're in different teams in the constructors. So I wonder how they're going to do here. Maybe they don't want to push too much, because otherwise there will be some words from both of them later on, as we've got one of the Alphas, Nickel Block, in the pits. Now that is a lap earlier than I thought it was going to be for those full wets to come off, and for another set of full wets. So here he comes. He's right, I think, after racing point in the pit lane, so he's not going to get held up too much. Let's see what tyres he fits on. It is Inters and a front wind change as well. I am looking at the pits actually. The rain has calmed down in the pit lane, and it has calmed down on track just a little bit as well. I don't think it's enough for Inters, but Nickel Blocks likes to take that gamble. Will we see other drivers do exactly the same thing?
What I'm noticing here is that it's quite heavy in the second and third sector, but it's actually beginning to lighten up in and around the first sector at the Wellington Straight and whatnot. So it's quite an interesting one. I do think in a couple laps time we will see some intermediate conditions, which really begs the question: do these guys pit now and go on to the hards? And Pat's gone in. He's got a 5-second time penalty. We'll see what tyres he goes on. Hadlow also comes in. So it is getting to that time where we are going to start to see some pit stops coming out for drivers. But Pat's not going to be happy with that 5-second time penalty for speeding.
Nope, he is not. Hadler is in as well. I don't think he got a time penalty either. Pat is on the full wets. So there he goes. And Hadler, let's see what he is. He is on the full wets too, by the looks of things as well. So quite a mixture of strategies here today for their first pit stops, but I wonder who's going to make the right ones as they all go in to the pit lane, as I'm seeing if anyone else is going to go in to the pit as well, as I wonder if Nickel Blocks is going to try and get the undercut right on these guys. Will another driver apart from Nickel Blocks going on to the intermediate tyres? We've got two people. I wonder how Nickel Blocks is doing on the inters. It's not doing too bad actually on those intermediate tyres. It is starting to die down a little bit, but obviously sector 1 is going to be where he's getting the most time, whereas sector 2 and 3 he's going to struggle just a little bit. So it's a little bit of hit and miss from him, but to be honest, it's good for either side. You've just got to make either of them work, I think.
Well, for those 3 drivers that have come onto the intermediates, they were way out of the points. Might as well take a risk in going onto the intermediates. I'm going to be watching the gap between Will and Hadler right now. Both these guys have made a pit stop in this race. Kurax now is also going to come in, so that promotes Dario up into P6. Well, it'll be interesting to see what tyres that Racing Point car puts on. His teammate opted for the wets, but we could see Kurax go onto the intermediates. He's just about to pull up to the Racing Point pit box, and what is it going to be for him? That is a set of wet tyres.
Yep, he goes for another person on a mixed strategy as well. I wonder, I swear we've seen conditions not stable, I think, in all these races so far. So it's a typical F2 strat, I think, at the moment as well. But we see Little Block, the only person he got ahead of was Benny. And I wonder how much time he's going to gain on him. But we can see the 2 Racing Points not doing too bad, and yeah, it is starting to lighten up in the first sector, but once you get towards the second sector, this is where they're starting to struggle on the inters, and that is where the 2 Racing Points are really starting to shine right now as well. The top 4, they are going to have a lot of thinking to do about what tyres they go on. Of course, Will getting a 3-second time penalty due to multiple warnings. That's not going to do his championship chances any good so far, as we're pretty much halfway into this race so far, and this is, well, Rafa's still leading by 11 seconds, and we're really into the pits. He can literally pit at any time, but he's got to get his pit stop right. Greeny, I think, is going to be the first response for him. Toxic goes in as well. I'm guessing he had to respond to Greeny in the pits. Obviously, Rafa can't do that if he goes past. What does Greeny decide to do? Greeny does go onto the inter tyres, as I think he almost got held up by the Williams there, but that was a little bit too close for comfort there. What does Toxic Tomato do? He goes on. He's on the inters of 2. So, and Peters, he's on the full wet. So again, we're seeing the front runners on the inters. We're seeing quite a mixed bag on the midfield going for the inters and the wet. So we shall see. But meanwhile, Midnight is going to try and look for a move going into, I think, Brooklands on Dario. But again, he's just a little bit too further back. I think Pete's almost just got ahead of Kurax there as well. But the one thing he's going to try and get past is Hadler going into turn 3, which he does. A little bit of a slide there. But I wonder how those tyres are going to come in to effect right now. But it's definitely not as rainy as it was before.
See, before Greeny and Toxic pitted, what I thought was that Pat and Kurax and Hadler, all those guys that came in and fitted the wets, they kind of didn't want to take a risk because they had something to protect. They were in the points, and it was different for the other guys. Now Rafa comes into the pits. It'll be interesting to see what the Rainmaster himself pits on. Of course, he's proven himself to be pretty much a god in the wet compared to the F2 grid, as he pulls up to the box at the end of the pit lane. Of course, Williams in real life coming last, but they are leading the constructors so far in this series, and it is the intermediate tyres for the Williams driver. Dario is also going to come to the pits. I think it is the crossover point. I think intermediate tyres are going to be quicker here.
Yeah, we shall see, of course. We'll see where Rafa goes in relation to some of the guys that have pitted earlier. Let's watch on board with Greeny. I'm sure Rafa is going to be ahead anyway, so I wonder how Dario is going to come into play here as well. See, the pit lane is quite long around this circuit, much longer than some of the other circuits on this game. Obviously, Zandvoort and Canada being one of the shortest pit entries and exits on this game, whereas Britain being one of the longest. So if they get their pit stop wrong, that could cost them the race. And Greeny and Toxic, they seem to be doing really well on those intermediate conditions. There's people on the full wet starting to lose a bit of time here right now. Big C and Hadler, they also go onto the intermediate tyres. And I think it has Pat, Kurax and Peters made a big mistake.
Not Peters. Peters is on the wets. There was a Hadler that came in on the wet tyres. And now he's fitted the intermediates. He saw the error that he made. Now he's lost a lot of time. Oh, wait, no, I am wrong. Oh, yeah, no, Peters definitely has made a mistake here. Those guys are going to have... Sorry for that one.
That's fine.
I definitely think that they will... They have made a mistake and they will come to the pit soon. I'm surprised that the top 4 right now haven't come to the pit right now. You'd expect them to have pitted by now.
I thought they were responding to Greeny. Rafa did the right thing for responding to Greeny as well, and obviously his teammates obviously worked well together. Faz is going to go into the pit too, with Pablo and named. They just want to nurse those tyres very well as well. Because don't forget, those wets can almost go for the entire race. I'm almost certain you don't have to pit on full wets at all, unless the conditions get better. And it is definitely getting better on the track. You can definitely see the car in front of you, whereas at the beginning of the race, you can barely see the car. So, you know, they will have to pit at some point. Otherwise, they're going to be in punch territory, just like we've seen quite a few people as well. I think there was a few people in the chat that are hoping Pablo is going to stop now. I wonder if he's going to respond to that as well, as Kurat is in the pits. There he goes then. So he was on the wets before, just pitted, and he realised that he made a mistake. He's on to intermediate tyres. What could have been? He could have been in the points, but that mistake on what tyres he went on definitely showed, and it was on the cusp when he pitted earlier, and it was a very hard decision then, but he's on the intermediate tyres now, and that should definitely go until the end of this Grand Prix.
Rafa now catching a bit of traffic. Of course, this is for position, so Midnight does have every right to defend this one. Rafa's going to tuck in behind him here. Is he going to go for the move? This should be easy up the inside into Stowe corner, but Midnight is still going to try and fight him around the outside. No, he just gives that one up. It's not worth fighting, and it's not worth holding up a driver that you are not competing with in this race.
Definitely not. I think Midnight is wanted to try and get as fast as Rafa as well, and I think, to be honest, Rafa is seeing what Midnight is seeing what Rafa can potentially do, and if he sees that Rafa is quicker potentially and he's pulling away just a little bit more, then he can see set and go onto those intermediate tyres. But he's seen the guys around him also on the inters, probably going to start to catch up to as well. And we've got Pat into the pits, so there he goes. What is Pat going to be thinking of? I think he's going to go on the inters as well. Oh, he's got a stop-go penalty. Oh yeah, because he's got one for speeding in the pit lane when he first pitted. So yeah, another racing point driver to make a mistake. Is Peters going to draw the line and say, right, I made a mistake too? Is he going to pit as well? So I think he's the only driver still yet to. I think Will has got the he's got the undercut that he needed, and he is into P11. One place more and he would be in the points, but don't forget there's still penalties. We've got Faz and Peters going for the move now. They're trying to make the gamble. Faz on those newer tyres and on actually faster tyres compared to the full wet. Surely Peter will know to pit, and Little Block, I think, is his third retirement of the season. What a shame.
I wonder what he did there. Did he retire on track, or did he crash the car? I'm on board with Benny. He's put that in the wall. I'm surprised we haven't got a safety car for that.
I'm surprised we haven't seen any safety cars in these full wet conditions, but it just goes to show how highly skilled these drivers are in the wet, and I'm very impressed so far. It doesn't look like it's going to dry up pretty soon, so they have to rely on the wet for pretty much the entirety, and the ones that pitted earlier were the ones to have benefited from it. But Midnight, I think Midnight at least is probably going to potentially get some points anyway, which is going to help Mercedes get double points finish. So obviously Peters is now going into the pits now. I think he saw that Faz got past him on faster tyres. He's like, right, I'm going into the pits at the moment. So there he goes on to the inters. Pablo, a name change. We saw Pablo in Austria take those tyres for a very long time. And he's still out. So is name changer. the other guys around him, they're gaining so much time. Rafa's already 1 second ahead. Well, no, 1 second behind Name Changer. Is this going to be the right time for Name Changer to pit, do you think?
I wonder if they're going to try and ride it out to the end. I don't really know what the rule is in a 50% race, but I remember doing career mode, I could, in a 25% race, I could take the intermediates to the end. So I wonder what they're trying to do. They might be trying to go to the end. Pablo could put up a bigger fight than Name Changer at Midnight did. This could be a gamble that either massively fails for them or pays off beautifully. As Rafa sets the fastest lap of the race, he is already onto the coattails of Pablo. You can see the difference in grip that they have. Rafa's going to try and make this one maybe into Village Day. Oh, there was almost contact front wing to the wheel of Pablo there. And it was a good defense from the Spaniards, but I think Rafa's going to have to get by here.
Yeah, Rafa's getting a better run going onto the Wellington straight here. And yeah, I think Pablo's not seeing the fight here. He doesn't want to fight too much. He doesn't want to cause both of the drivers to be out of the race. So there we go. Rafa is your race leader now. He was your net race leader, but now he's your proper race leader with 7 laps to go of this British Grand Prix. He is pretty much led from start to finish, well, the net race lead from start to finish, as Will just sets the fastest lap of this race so far. And you can already see Rafa pulling away, and by around about 1.2 seconds, you can see the delta between the intermediate tyres and the wets definitely played dividends here so far. And I think it's around about 2 or 3 seconds you lose between the inters and the full wets. But Pablo not doing too bad on those wet tyres. Maybe he could stay potentially get that second place, but I'm a bit worried. On our little spreadsheet that we did, these tyres only last 25 laps. He has got to do some massive tyre saving. So does Name Changer and Midnight if they want to make it to the end. We can already see Greeny catching up on Midnight now, and surely Greeny's going to do exactly the same thing to what Rafa did to Pablo a lap ago, but this time towards the start-finish straight, just past the new hotel that's going to be built pretty soon. Has Toxic Tomato just set the fastest lap. Oh, and Greeny and Midnight almost stuck once again. You can see Midnight's tyres are overheating, especially towards the rear. Here comes Greeny. He's going to go to look for the right-hand side then, but nah, he doesn't want to try for the lunge. He could try and go for the switchback here, as Midnight almost makes a mistake, but I think Midnight just let Greeny through. They're on different strategies. You don't want to cause too much chaos. He's got to do the same to Toxic Tomato soon as well. You're going to be holding so many people up otherwise if you're not careful. Here comes Toxic now past Midnight up into P5 now, similar to where he finished last week. He's hoping he's going to finish higher. He's hoping that some of the guys who haven't pitted yet will be still yet into pit so far, but this has been a nail in the coffin for Toxic, but he's going to hope that the guys in front be on punches, because otherwise he's not going to get that podium, and Greeny could be on the shot for a podium too. Let us know, do you think those wets are going to make it to the end? According to our statistics, I don't think it is, but we'll see.
The good thing that Midnight is going to be seeing here is that nice big 9-second gap he has to Dario behind, but that is rapidly decreasing. So if he can just hold on for about 5 more laps in this Grand Prix, then Midnight could be walking home with a 6th place finish, and that would be really good, because if you think about it, before he was fighting for 9th position around about there. So after the DNF last weekend, last Monday, it will be a really good result for the youngest driver on the grid, actually. For Pablo and Name Changer, the risk is going to be much greater, because they were already fighting for this high up position, and they could have been throwing this one away, but for Midnight, why not take the risk? You're not losing too much. It's not the same for Name Changer and Pablo, though.
Exactly. Midnight's definitely got that buffer, but we can already see Dario, I think, getting a few seconds that lap on Midnight, and it's going to be a few seconds. It was a few seconds per lap, and there's about 4 or 5 laps left. So do the maths, guys. Dario's going to possibly catch up to Midnight towards the end, unless Midnight could do some really good moves, but I'm almost certain that they wouldn't be going this long if you don't have to pit. So they are going to try and stay out as long as they can. If these guys pit, if Midnight, Name Changer and Pablo pit, they're going to lose so much time. They're going to be in danger potentially of not gaining any points this race. So if I was them, take the risk, and if it doesn't pay off, then you know what you're going to do for the next time it rains heavy like this, as Benny just got a 3-second time penalty right now, as we've got Pablo and Name Changer going side by side, as well as Greedy LFC. Greedy LFC is going to take advantage to both hands, as Pablo is going to try and defend quite nicely. They almost made contact, but Greedy says thank you very much. Name Changer made a mistake, and I think he's going to go for another move on Pablo here. The fresher tyres is definitely helping Greedy, and it's faster as well, just getting towards just past turn 1 and into turn 2. Name Changer getting a 3-second time penalty for that, and they make contact. Sorted Tomato has seen the lunge. He said, you know what, if you made contact like that, I just go for the move with both hands, and he's up into P2. We could see Williams 1-2. We could see, don't forget, Toxic Tomato had that spin earlier on. We thought he wasn't going to get a podium today, but Pablo and Name Changer both made a mistake. I think they've got a little bit of damage there, which is very annoying, I've got to say, as Peace has got the fastest lap of this race, but I don't know. I think these two are taking too many risks, but Toxic Tomato, what a move. What a move. You definitely want to take the opportunity when it presents itself, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and now Name Changer trying to make a move up the inside of Cox. Pablo just completely forgets about track limits, and he's got damage on that car, and he cannot fight with the Red Bull driver. Dario's found his way by Midnight, so if he can catch up to Pablo, who has got damage, it will be easy for him. He can get P5, and then if he is brought towards Name Changer, that could be P4 on debut for IGK Dario. A really good performance so far in F2.
Yeah, definitely, and definitely on your first race as well. If you want to show how well to do in an F2 race on your debut, this is how well you want to do as well. He was an unknown coming into this race in PSGL, and he's definitely impressing everyone, and he's already looking impressive on Pablo. I'm almost certain Pablo's going to try and make it to the end. I won't be surprised if they get a punch. I'll be interested to see what their tyre wear is like on the final lap, as Dario is now going to try and go for the lunge once again on Pablo, going into the Wellington straight here. This time he gets the job done. A bit of a slide there from Pablo that cost him a little bit. Dario is up into P5 in this race so far. 6 tenths now separate between him and Name Changer right now, and he's got a lot of work to find if he wants to get that podium, but P4 is still an incredible result. Faz is potentially going to try and gain that for lost time after he's going to try and get past Pablo now as well. I think Pablo has finally seen sense that the engines are fast, and Dario gets past Name Changer quite comfortably as well. Name Changer, I think, let him through there. He didn't want to take he just didn't want to fight with him really, on different strategies really. I mean, Name Changer wants to get his best result of the season so far. Name Changer a ninth in Austria and a DNF in Hungary, and you'll get a P5 here if he keeps this up, and he does not want to lose this fight here so far, as Rafa is about to start the penultimate lap of this race. 14 seconds separating between himself and his teammate. The Williams cars will be taking a comfortably in the constructors, but here comes Faz on Name Changer. Faz is up into P5. He's only 2 tenths behind Dario though, so not all is lost from him. Don't forget Faz started low down as well. He had a really terrible qualifying. Last week, don't forget, he got pole. This week, he got a low qualifying. He's climbing up. He's doing exactly the same to what we saw Toxic do last week.
When he started all the way down in 16th position, now he's up 11 places in this one today. So it has been a really great performance from the Renault driver. He's just kept his head cool and he's kept his nose clean in this one, and he's found his way up the order, made the most of the strategy. Now he's got by all of the drivers who decided to stay out. They took the risk, and unfortunately for them it didn't work out. It's just not wet enough for the full wet tyres, unfortunately for them, but still 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th for them. They'll be happy with it. but Big C is catching up to Midnight. He's not that close to him, and he has only got one more lap after this one to get the move done. And I've got to give credit to Will as well. He was way down the order for a long time, but now he finds himself in P10, the final points position for the young driver. Meanwhile, there's battles behind between 4 cars for 11th.
He's going to continue I think he's going to continue with that point streak, don't forget, because he got a 6th and a 5th in Austria and Hungary. It may not be the result he would have hoped for coming into Silverstone, but you know what, after the trouble he's had in this race, he will definitely take that so far. Not many battles happening at the moment, apart from potentially Hadler and IGK Pat as well. We got Peters as well down in 14th place as well. We're starting to see who is going to put the pedal to the metal. Look at Peters. Peters is going to try and potentially go for this move. Oh, not just one, but 2 cars, but decided to back off it for the time being. Hadler defends quite nicely from Pat going into Stowe corner. This is some really good battling from all 4 cars. Please, guys, do not make it 4 wide, because that is going to be costly if you do that. But, you know, we've got yellow flag and set to 1. I don't know what that is for.
Pablo, he's got a puncture. Left rear.
Pablo's got puncture. That is worrying. What about Name Changer? Has Name Changer got puncture? I think Midnight's got puncture too. I don't know. It's really hard to tell at the moment. But we're just going to go on board with Rafa, he's been completely dominant all season long. We've seen this in F3 as well, where the championship leader won the first 2 races of the season. This guy's done it in F2. And he's about to add another win to his list. He said to me, he wanted to rain, he said, and it paid off. He is the wet merchant of PSGL F2, as Pablo has retired from the session, but that doesn't matter for the time being. Rafa wins in Britain, and he got the fastest lap to prove it as well. Toxic Tomato, a brilliant comeback drive from him, gets the Williams 1-2. No, he doesn't. Greeny gets P2 due to toxic penalty. I don't think Greeny has any penalties. And we got Dario about to cross the line as well in P4. I think Name Changer's dropped himself down the order. Has he got puncture as well?
He does.
Yeah, so 2 people having punches. That's not good. But Faz is going to get P5. Big C is going to get he's going to carry on his top 10 streak of the season. He's going to get another P6. He's got 7th place in the first race, 7th place in the second race, and he's got 6th in the third race. So he got 1 place better. So he got his best result of the season. He will definitely take that. Midnight in P7. He took those tyres right to the end of the Grand Prix, and he got a good result. Well done to Midnight. The risk paid off for him. If he did pit Midnight, he would have lost more positions than gained. So I think it was a race for attrition for him. And Name Changer, what a shame, is in 9th place. Will is in 8th place. A few positions that he would have lied, but after a few punches from Pablo and Name Changer, I think he'll take P8, and Peters gets his first point on debut as reserve. So both of the debutants in this league has done well. I know Peters made a mistake on the intermediate tyres, but not on the wets to start with, but at least he realised that mistake early on and he went to pit when he did.
Well, that is the end of the race. Faz took driver of the day for most positions made, but it is the man on a streak right now. It's 3 wins out of 3 for Rafa. He stands atop the podium. Greeny LFC taking 2nd position, and Toxic Tomato rounding off the podium. He'll be happy with at least a podium here today after qualifying pretty far down the order for his standards, as Midnight was the only driver to not get a puncture, who was 0 stopping. He really did manage those tyres well.
Yeah, he did. I'm impressed with Midnight. In every league I watch and commentate, or even I watch, he is a guy that manages his tyres brilliantly. I don't know how he does it, but he does it. And I've got to say, Midnight is definitely one of my contenders for driver of the day due to that strategy alone. But as someone has rightly said in the chat, I would rather get 2 points than 0. And if Pablo would have pitted, he would have got some points. He was just pushing so much harder than Midnight, and I think that's what costed him today. We got Rafa that wins. No penalties. Well done to Big C as well. He's the only other driver not to get penalties. But let's take through your running order. We've got Rafa, Greeny, Toxic, Dario, Faz, Big C, Midnight, Will, Name Changer, and Peters rounds up your top 10. Then we got Kurats, Hadler, Pat, Benny, Pablo, your first retirement, and your non-finishers are as well, apart from Pablo, Lickleblot, CT Brain, Gonanen, and Skivan. Skivan didn't even make it past lap 1, and F2 just can't seem to get enough of the rain. Will we see a fully dry race in Spain, I wonder?
Well, the rain has been getting heavier every week, so I think the track will be completely flooded, and we'll have the super wet tyres, the new one, just for us, just for PSGL F2.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to see that as well. I mean, like, every other tier has had at least one dry race. Surely we'll get that, because I think the drivers in F2 are starting to get a little bit annoyed. But the only driver that's not getting annoyed, obviously, is the rain merchant himself, Rafa. He's going to be extending his lead by quite a lot. But at least Toxic's going to be happy with Peters, which means that the gap won't be extended that much, which will be great to see, of course. So that has been the end of PSGL F2 League, and we hope you guys enjoyed this race. I definitely did. Thank you very much to Dan for joining me in the commentary box once again.
Oh, it was a pleasure being here today. Can't wait for next week.
I can't wait for next week too in Spain, but don't forget, we've still got more PSGL action on the channel right now. We've got F1 and F3 streaming live on the channel. Both of them are just in the middle of their qualifying. I think actually just heading towards the end of their qualifying session. So make sure you check those tiers out. I hope both of them streaming at the same time to support them. That'll be absolutely fantastic. But as always, don't forget, there's also Formula Performance on tomorrow, as they'll be streaming Britain around about 8 p.m. as well. So don't you dare miss these lot. For myself and Dan, we'll see you next week for the Spanish Grand Prix. Have a good evening. Goodbye.